Welcome to yet another episode of Umbhoxo Review. We're coming to you live from Hamilton's Rugby Club, sponsored by Avante, Dare to Go Forward. And of course, we're joined by a special guest today. But I'll start with my co-host, Lonabos Lois Soldati. How are you doing, bud?
I'm good and you, man. How are you? I'm good and you. How you doing, Mills?
I'm good. I'm quite excited about this one today.
Oh yes, I'm excited about our special guest, the big
Right.
guy Rito himself.
Yeah, right next to me, obviously, is a legend, known among Sobumbo, rugby coach and the father, Coach Rito Hlungwana. Currently coaches the forwards in the Stormers team. How are you doing, bud?
I'm good, thanks. Thank you very much for having me. It's a real honor to be here, chatting a bit of rugby with you guys.
I just want to start off with a little bit of memory. I think it was 2022, right? You came up to us, well, obviously supporting the Stormers at the stands, and you said, guys, I'll bring the trophy home and I'll bring it to you guys. And you certainly did that, so we thank you for that.
No, thanks. I hope I would have said I'll bring it to you 4 times. So I kept my promise for that one time. Hopefully, we'll be able to bring it back again in the next year or two.
I certainly believe so. Certainly believe so.
Rito, just before we start, I just want to first congratulate you on a good Heineken Investor Cup season and also a good URC season. I think that the Stormers played quite well. It was a very challenging season in terms of injuries and players, but I think what you guys are doing and the joy you're bringing to Cape Town faithfuls is really, really admirable. And just want to say thank you and well done for a very good season. Hopefully next season is better. We take it a step further. You reclaim your trophy that has left South Africa, and you guys bring it back and maybe go even further in the Heineken Investor Cup.
Yeah, no, thanks. Definitely, it's something we're really looking forward to achieve in the next couple of years. I must say, mentioning those 2-3 years ago when we won the URC, it was a beautiful feeling to bring the trophy to the crowd, to the Cape Town faithful, to the people that support the Stormers. It's a feeling that we're definitely hunting and trying to get again.
No, we trust and believe. We trust and believe. Let's get into it. The Baby Box obviously had a good performance against Fiji. And then it was a bit of a disappointing result against Argentina. Obviously, we don't know what's going inside, but as a coach, maybe you can give us more insight. Do you see them going all the way from here? In terms of just your analysis, basically, when you look at the squad, how they train and how they build up to these type of tournaments, what's your view and take on that?
Yeah, firstly, I think, we're quite fortunate in this country in terms of the quality of talent that consistently comes through. Works both as a positive and a negative at the same time. If you look at the other teams, if you look at England, they've got a couple of players that have already played in the Premiership. You look at Ireland, they've got a couple of players that have played for their club in the URC. Whereas with us, because there's so much talent coming up, it gets to a point where there's a bit of a bottleneck, where it's not always easy to get a guy straight out of high school to play URC and gain that experience. So it works for us, the fact that we've got a lot of talent, but because it's so congested, it takes time for us to give the young boys a bit of an opportunity at a high level. So that's something we have to live with. But in saying that, I must say the Baby Box, very good coaching staff, Bafana Ntleko, Lamumba Kari. I know Louis Kuhn does a bit of kicking there. He assists a bit. So they're quite fortunate to have good coaches. It's just a pity that we couldn't get it over the line with Argentina. But it's not a train smash, If you look at our boys, I worked for a long time at the Western Province Rugby Institute. And if you coach players that come from Power Boys, Grey College, Afis, those guys go through high school without losing a game, or they lose 1 or 2. And for me, I think that lesson that you get from losing a big game is immense. And it's not a bad thing that they lost against Argentina. They learn to fight. They learn to stand up again from that. So it's not all doom and gloom. We must rather focus on the lessons that these boys are getting from losing a game. If you look at, is a boy, his name JJ, the lock from the Bulls. He's played USC already, one of the few. Comes from a very good, I think he went to Gray.
Yes, he did.
You know, he would have never lost a game, you know, all throughout high school. Now, all of a sudden, he's sitting in a position where it's a pressure game against England. How do you perform? What did you learn from your previous game? So it's not necessarily that bad. I think we've got a good system in terms of the coaches, and we're very lucky with the talent that we have. But let's not get too concerned when these boys lose, because there's so much that they can learn just from the loss.
I hear you, but I have to differ. You're saying talking about the bottleneck, but if you look back historically, whenever we filled an SC under 20 team, we've always been able to pick 2 or 3 players that have played Super Rugby already, when there was still Super Rugby and we were taking part in that. So the example I'll make is 3 years ago, when we won the Six Nations and we were captained by Sasha. Sasha had already played URC when he captained the team, and that's always been how we get it right to win the under-20 tournament. I don't have much sympathy for. I don't tolerate the losing part. I don't think a country with as much talented rugby players as South Africa, whereby at schoolboy level we win every single Rugby World Cup, wherever it's played in the world. And how do you go from beating the best schools in the world at an 18 to not dominating at an 20 level? So I don't know the intricacies and the complications involved, but I do raise an eyebrow towards the coach, Bafana Nhleko. Like, I was talking to my cousin, and we actually picked a team that could beat the current team that's playing. Like, we feel like we don't understand the squad the team selections. And I don't want to dwell too much onto it because I'm very, very frustrated, as you can hear, but I just really think that we should never tolerate or understand loss. I understand that you grow and you learn more from your losses as a person, but with the talent we have, we should be dominating the way France has dominated and won the last 3 under-20 World Cups, or the past 2. Since lockdown, they've won every under-20 World Cup. We should be doing that, not France. We've got no excuse to not be dominating at that level with the talent pool we've got in the country. So I beg to differ. I don't know what my point is, but I really do beg to differ on that. We should raise the bar, we should raise the level to make sure that we're dominating at that level, because it's only going to make our rugby stronger and going to make the Springboks stronger, ultimately. I don't know what's your take on that?
Yeah, look, I mean, as a coach, for me, it's extremely important that by the time the players reach URC level, they're hardened, they understand, they've dealt with failure, they've dealt with winning, they've had all these challenges. I mean, I'll give you a very basic example. A couple of years ago, when I was at the Institute, I coached 2 boys who were deemed to be the next Bakis Botha and Victor Medfield, Yaku Velemse and Edward Zandbeck. 2 meters tall, out of high school. Edward Zandbeck had only lost 1 game throughout his high school career. Yaku Velemse had never lost a game. Went through Paul Jim. That's when they were dominating inter-schools. And both those 2 guys are not playing professional rugby now, you know. Didn't understand how it feels like to fight for their position. Didn't understand how it feels like to lose. And I think for the bigger picture, you know, we want to remember the Springboks winning the World Cup. It's nice to dominate junior rugby and all of that. But for me as a coach, I want players that can deal with, you know, challenges. I want players that, you know how to be behind by 20 points and learn how to fight. So I don't think there's anything too bad about our junior teams losing, as long as they learn. You know, we've got talent, we've got good coaches. Bafana's been there for a while, highly experienced. He's coached the Lions under 20s. You know, he has to fight to get alignment camp for the junior players. He has to get guys from Pretoria. He has to fight with URC teams. And for us, when I talk about the bottleneck, you know, if you look at our lives, you look at the Springbok. Sasha is at the Springboks now. We've got money. You know, how do we then make room for a guy like Carl to play URC? Do we sign another flyer for next year? You know, so there is a bottleneck, and we mustn't always look at it as a guy's finished high school, he must immediately come up A guy who finishes high school 2-3 years ago now starts qualifying to play URC. Look at Sasha, now he starts getting into it. Do we allow Dino Busak to start coming in as a URC player? No. He'll have to pay his fees for a couple of years until he gets there.
Coach, I'm going to disagree with you because...
It's going to be a long day.
I have to disagree with you because Stephen Kitchoff matriculated, went straight into the Stormers setup. Damien Willemse matriculated, straight into the Stormers setup. And those guys have gone on to do great things. But my bigger point that I want to make to you is this one. The last time we won the Under-20 World Cup, let's go through that team. Stephen Kitchoff, he's won 2 World Cups. Peter Steph Tutoy has won 2 World Cups. There's a lot of players from the 2012 team that won the 20 World Cup that played in the past 2 World Cups that we won. That's what we need. We need to dominate at that level so we can continue dominating at another level, because winning is a mentality, and it's like it must become habitual to you. You need to conquer New Zealand at a 20 level. You need to conquer France at a 20 level. So when it comes to open rugby, it's not a thing. You know, you've faced the haka and you've conquered the haka. You've faced the French flair, you've conquered the French flair. So it's really, really imperative that at an 20 level we dominate, because the guys that can do it at that level are the guys that went and won us 2 World Cups. Because Pollard was on the 2012 team that won us the 2 World Cups. Kitchoff, Peter Steph Tutoy, the names are, but I'm sure there's a big bulk, not a big bulk, I mustn't exaggerate. Maybe 5 players from the 2012 team that won us the World Cup went to become double World Cup winners. That's how important it is to dominate at an 20 level, and that's what we must push.
Look, I have to disagree with you.
How?
I have to disagree with
How?
you. I get when it comes to the winning mentality, right? But if I'm actually listening to Coach Rito and the analysis that is bringing, is that we need to take these things into consideration. Prepping, having to fly players down, having to fight for the alignment camp and all that stuff, right? Which is fine, right? However, I also do think that we mustn't be too harsh, especially on kids under 20. They're still trying to grow their rugby, build on their rugby, and gain the experience through the structures of rugby, SA box. Like Coach Rito said, they've got about 2-3 years, obviously, to develop in order for them to qualify and be URC players, champion players, with that mentality. You will get special ones like your 100 Pollard who will come out the blocks and actually become good players, right? However, you need to be considerate with a lot of players, right? And if you want to develop players properly, you need to give them time to come through the ranks.
No, Mills, you're wrong. Let's look at our 2019 World Cup winning team. Pollard, straight from under 20, straight into Springboks. Kitchoff, straight into the mix. The guys that have performed well at that level go straight into the mix and they deliver. They go straight into the mix. You can go through the whole 2019 team. They've gone straight. Jesse Creel, straight from that youth, straight into the mix with Heineke Meyer.
No.
Let's go through the team.
No. So what you need to understand, no one was a 19-year-old except Kitty, who skipped the institute and went through. Damien Willemse was the same. Sasha didn't skip anything. So what you need to understand, players develop differently.
And for different positions. I understand.
Exactly.
I understand that.
Yeah, so as much as that under 20 team won in 2011, the structures were different. It was during Super Rugby. The alignment camps for them was much longer. They had much longer camps. Now this guy, Bafana, has to organize this.
He's got rugby championship that he just went and lost every game at.
It's the first one. It's the first time they've had a rugby championship. Before they didn't have that. So he's building on to that. If the players are understanding the system, he's getting players last minute. So we actually maybe need to spend more time and looking at how much time he has in terms of preparing the players. But for me, the big thing is the amount of lessons that these boys are getting. I was at the camp a couple of weeks ago watching how they train. That's why I can stand here confidently believing that they've got the right coaches. But, it's not like us. We're coaching Super Rugby. Yes, we lost in the quarterfinals, but I'm still coaching the same players again next year. There's a nice opportunity for help them to improve and all of that. He's going to have 90% of his players are different. How much time is he going to have? We don't know. All these players come from different setups. They're trying to combine and play for one unit. If you look at the Irish under 20 team, yes, they have 6 nations. They get together the previous year. Our guys will probably start getting together early next year. So it's different. Different systems. It works totally differently. We must rather focus on what we're gaining. As much as we lost, what are we gaining from these under 20s playing in this competition? What did we gain? from them playing out in Australia earlier in the year.
Okay, coach. I just want to move on swiftly here. There's a couple of players, obviously, that from the Stormers, right? And one of them is the captain, Zach Pothen, right? And I watched an interview with Rassie Erasmus touting him to be the next big player, or Kids of 2.0, if you can put it that way. Obviously, you are in the camp with these boys. You get a sense of and feel on how they develop from the Stormers side. How important it is for them to obviously grab these opportunities right now, and especially when you hear this coming from a coach from the Springboks talking about you like that. What sort of mentality do you now expand in order for you to go through the whole way?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm to start off with Zach, and we might maybe even hold it there, highly talented player, has the right size, captain of the junior box, but at the same time, I have to tell you, he's never scrummed against our URC team yet, He spent a lot of time with the junior box, and he's played under 20. We also need to start playing our role in getting him involved, because he's shown a lot of potential. And that's a challenge, because if you come to our scrum session, who's the tight heads there? You've got Franz Malherbe, you've got Nietling Foshier, Brock is scrumming there, you've got Sazi. Now, that's a type of bottleneck that I try to talk about. We want to get this guy, give him a bit of experience. Curry Cup will probably be, he'll probably get a nice opportunity. But if you look at USC, how do we bring in Zach? We want to win on Saturday. How much room is it? How much has Sazi played this year? Very little. He needs to play, because if Franz gets injured, who do you want to be playing? You want Sazi to be playing.
So, coach.
So you say it's a build-up. It's a build-up. You want the guy to get a cap there and maybe relax. But a guy like Sazi can start any game. But at the moment, because we've got two Springboks, I'm saying two because Nietling must still get his cap, Sazi can barely get a chance. So it's important that we understand the process and where we can start trying to get the youngsters in, like Zach. He'll play a bit of Curry Cup. Next year, he might get a bit of a run. But at this stage, if I talk about this season, we cannot give him maybe an opportunity at the expense of a Sazi, because Sazi is the one that's going to cover for you in a semi-final and a final when France is injured. So it's tough bringing in these boys, especially if it's a lot of boys in the same position. Look at Sasha. He's a Bog now. It makes it tougher for us to sort of put him on the bench or exclude him. Because he gets his opportunity, puts his hands up. So it makes it quite tough. But do you drop money? There's a few young boys coming through high school that are coming through. Do you sign all of them? When there's just a 2-3 year gap between them and Sasha or Carl or whoever is still there. So it makes it quite challenging. But, we have to back our systems, let the guys play Varsity Cup where they can, play under 20, and slowly build it up.
All right. I have to respect trust the system, trust the process approach of yours, because,
of course,
I don't think you get enough applause for resurrecting the Stormers. In my view, there was this time the Stormers were in a dark place, and you were given full reign, and you played a big role in shaping the culture that's at the Stormers today. You played a big role in turning the Stormers around when they were in their darkest times to where they are today. So who am I to disagree with what you are saying? So I'll have to take your systematic approach to things and trust the system. But just my nature will always try to push the boundaries, I want to maybe ask one last thing on the baby box before I move on, and we can maybe go to the box. How does it make sense to pick Liam Kun at 10, the guy who hasn't played for a full year, but there's talented players, there's 5 other talented players they could have picked. They could have picked SA School's 2 10s from last year, Kyle Smith and the Van der Westin kid. There's Dino Busak. There's a lot of 10s that they could have been picked for SA under 20 this year, but I don't want to be to get lost in the weeds and talk about Liam Kuhn's parents or whatever, but how does it make sense? How does the other kids who are good 10s, who've torn it up at under 20 Curry Cup, done extremely well, they don't get a look in, but Liam gets a look in? How does that make sense?
Yeah. No, look, like I said, these guys come in for training camps. They spend a bit of time with the coaches, even though maybe sometimes it's not a lot of time. But in this case, I would rather back the coaches. They've seen something that we haven't seen. And, you know, they must take the decisions that they've made and live by them. So, yeah, I think the coaches know better than us.
And then last one from me, Coach Rito. In the past 2 games, what can you take out from the baby box?
Definitely some good players. You can see the big challenge for them is just the level of cohesion. They haven't maybe trained, you know, together as long as they can. 'Cause you must remember these are young boys. You know, they need more time with each other. As much as they played that competition earlier in the year, I still think they needed more time. But yeah, some good players that, you know, are operating in that team. You know, we mentioned Zek. There's the Hlungwana kid who was quite decent. You know, I enjoy the boogeyman. So there's some good players that, you know, we can definitely, you know, keep an eye on, and hopefully they'll develop to be URC top players.
Okay. Unlike my colleague over here, I'm a huge fan of Bafana Ntleko. Bafana Ntleko. Since he coached at UJ with Ucho Imongalo, so I've seen him come up the ranks, and I think he's put
What did he win at UJ?
He's put in, huh?
What did he win at UJ?
This man.
Anyway, Bafana has won the Under 21 competition before. Probably one of the most successful Curry Cup Under 21 coaches with the Lions. Under 21? No, I'm talking about the Under 21 Curry Cup. He's won that a few times. If you want to ask what has he won before, he's a guy with a strong CV, done really well, should be coaching at URC level.
100%.
You know.
But anyways, let's move on to the Springboks versus Ireland, the battle for number 1, as they call it, the battle for number 1. We're obviously still at Hamilton's. It's going to pack up soon, and we'll be watching the game here later. Let's start with the lineup, actually. Any surprises from your side, Coach?
Not really. I think the one position that might have caught quite a few people off guard is Kwacha Smith at 8. But I totally understand why they would have picked him there. I mean, Jasper's not available. Technically, you have to choose between him and Ivan Ross. The other Bulls kid, Hanekom, is not available. I would understand why Rassi would have gone for Kwacha instead of Ivan. I know Rassi is big into experience around how many caps a player has. Ivan is probably on 4 or 5. They will build up his caps going forward. Very talented player, also has a strong work rate. That Springbok environment is going to help him improve more and more. But I think, you know, like I said, people might have wondered why Kwacha ahead of Ivan. I think it's purely experience-based, and the fact that Kwacha has got high battle rate, highly experienced, so we'll be good.
I'm not shocked at all. When you look at Kwacha and his battle stats, he's the best in the Springbok team. That's why he's always so impactful off the bench. So for me, it was a normal decision to play Kwacha at 8. It made a lot of sense to me. What was rather shocking for me was maybe 2 things. Well, one definitely is no Libok in the match day 23. And Sasha being included at Libok's expense. I know Sasha covers more position in 10, 12, 15. But that was big. Because what Libok brought to the Springbok setup in the past 2 years was a lot of dynamism and really got the team playing and really kept defenses honest and really kept other teams in check because he could really set the team alight. But I was mentioning it in the last time we did the live with Skara that right now we do have Siamasuku who offers the same, we do have Sasha who offers the same, and they've got a better kicking ratio. But with my shock being Libok, You can comment on that, but I'll ask you a very outrageous question. But is this the end of the road for Libbok?
No, definitely not. I just think at this stage, as a coach, when you select the team and you also select how you want to finish the game, at this stage, the guys that come on, they have the responsibility, especially a test match like this. You might be behind, the score might be tight, or you might be ahead. Those are the guys that need to finish a game for you. So if you look at Sasha, he can come in those three positions that you've mentioned, but at the same time, I don't think they're going to substitute Pollard. So they probably see them like, guys, when do we say, okay, Pollard's had enough, we'll take him off? Because usually at this stage with the Springboks, they like saying, look, you play 60 minutes, you play 40, you play that. But I'm sure that would have been a tough conversation, guys. When do we substitute Andre Pollard? Because he's the kind of guy that's going to slot that kick in the last couple of minutes when the pressure is there. He's going to keep the guys calm. He's in the leadership group. Whereas Mane, as talented as he is, maybe this is a kind of game you would have rather wanted him to start instead of coming off the bench. Sasha also gives you that backup, so you technically have like a Monesh, the Steyn fullback. What was his name? Francois Steyn. Because Sasha at altitude will kick it from the 10, from his own half. So he's got that long boot. He's got a proper drop kick. So this game is not going to be a 20-point game. Might be, but test matches are not usually
the confidence is there.
So you need a guy like Sasha, can slot in anywhere, especially on a 6-2 split bench. You don't want to have a lot of movements onto the team where if you slot Mane at flav, Andre moves to 12 and then Chelsea covers fullback. You rather still want to have a guy who's very good, at fullback, can kick with both feet, can kick for poles. So I'm not too surprised with that decision. And it's not the end of the road for Mane, He'll still play. He'll still get his game time. It's almost like me saying it's the end of the road for Ivan Ross. It's not. It's about to start. Mane's going to still play lots of rugby for the Springboks. It's just Rassie will have to decide which games he picks for him.
Coach, I'm going to call a spade a spade. When we played Ireland last year in the World Cup, Mane missed those kicks because we had a 7-1 split that dominated Ireland. He missed his kicks. Bandi, he was the N1. If Ireland wanted to penetrate us, they broke through his channel. So his defense is not up to standard. And he didn't allow us to build up scoreboard pressure because we're in their half, we're dominating them, we're getting the penalties, we're not kicking the penalties. He didn't allow us to dominate Ireland last year. Coming to this year, right, he hasn't improved his kicking. He has not improved his defense. So a guy like Evan Roos, who's young, still has the world ahead of him, and he will play lots of caps. Even Roos will get 50 caps for the Boks. Not up for debate. Someone who, like Mane, the special X factor that he brought to us, there's 3 guys who can do that now. So, and they tackle better than him, and they've got a higher kicking accuracy than him. So I don't want to be the prophet of doom and gloom, but I don't see him, and especially the way Rassie picks his team with the big focus on defense, I don't see Mane playing. He'll play against Portugal, maybe. He'll play against Georgia, maybe, but he'll play against the Wales, maybe, but I don't see Mane being picked against New Zealand or against Ireland or against a very big team. I could be wrong. I mean, what do I know? But from the naked eye, that's how I'm seeing it.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't want to delve too much into it. I think the Stormers is the best defense probably in the USC. And the same player you're mentioning who's weak defensively plays for the Stormers. We've never had issues with Mane defensively. He has missed a tackle there and there, just like any other player. But offset piece, I promise you, really, really good. Comes off the line hard. He understands his body, takes away space before the guy gets momentum. So it's not much of an issue. If you want to get momentum on him, maybe like a switch with a guy coming on at pace, but he's usually very good by getting off the line. So defense, I can tell you now, he would have never gone to the World Cup if he had a deficit as a defender. They would have, because Pollard was only a couple of weeks away from coming back from injury, they would have kept him in the squad, But it's definitely not an issue for him. And the experience, his X factor skill is still probably at a different level compared to Sasha. Sasha is a youngster. We need to give him time to develop. Whereas Mani come ahead at this stage, a little bit more experience. So Manu will still play a lot.
And he's still young. So yeah, I think for me, the fact that we're having these debates, first of all, means that there's lots of talent, there's depth, and for us to worry who slots in at 22 or 23 or starts at fly off means that there is depth indeed. Also, we've seen in the Rugby World Cup how Rassie uses his squad. It's no more a 15-man game or 23-man game. It's literally everyone that's in the squad gets utilized. So depending on the game, who you need, you basically utilize the strengths of those people. I know probably like a coach like Tony Brown probably enjoys having a money in the camp, who obviously bring in his attacking acumen. So for this game, I totally understand what Coach Rito's saying. You might need maybe in the last 10, 15 minutes someone who will slot in a 50, 60-meter kick, and such as the guy, So different tales for different stories, I guess, if you can put it that way. But certainly for me, I think money is not done yet.
All right, fine, that's okay. I'll let you guys have that, but I'll keep my view. Let's go have a look at today's game, Coach. For me, one question. What does Ireland need to do to beat the Springboks today? It's a very dangerous and dark question. We want the Boks to win. We are all proudly Springboks here. But I just want to hear from an analysis point, how can the Boks be beaten and what must Ireland do to beat us?
Yeah, there's this award that we have in our team. It's called the shit that people don't see. I'm showing on
It's fine, you can.
You can beep it, and with the Springbok, that team is driven by that. The things that the normal spectator cannot identify. When you're sitting watching rugby, someone will ask me, but why is Peter Steph playing in the team if he doesn't carry a lot? Or, okay, the 28 tackles, 27 tackles are quite evident. Why is Skwaha playing 8, Why is, okay, everyone loves Eben because he carries. So the mindset of the Springboks is those guys want to dominate you physically. Everyone knows that. That's why there's 6 forwards on the bench. So those forwards that are starting the game, Rassie tells them, guys, you going to play 40 minutes, you maybe 45, but boys, they've something called slow poison. So every single scrum is a battle. There's no, let's get the ball out and play. Especially on our ball, everything is going to be a battle. It's going to be a long set scrum. It's going to be about 12 seconds, 8 seconds, and that pack is slowly going to feel it, And what's going to happen second half, we're going to bring in a fresh front row and those extra forwards. And if Ireland has dropped in terms of intensity and they can't handle the physicality, then the gates are going to open up. We're going to start scoring more points. And how's that going to come? Through scrum penalty, through mauling. So what Ireland has to do is make sure, it's going to sound like a cliche, they have to stay in the fight for more than 60 minutes. They have to make sure the timing of their substitutions is spot on, because maybe in the first 20, 30 minutes in the first half, it's going to be an arm wrestle. It's going to look quite equal. But if they're going to delay those substitutions, by the time the bunch comes on 10 minutes into the second half, there's 3 scrum penalties. Ox is on, maybe with 3 penalties ahead of them. So the timing of the coaches and how they make the substitution is going to be important. They got to match them physically in the first half and also match them in the second half. But for me, it comes down to how they time those substitutions and how those guys handle the level of intensity. Because if I look at our bench and their bench, from the peg side, I think our peg is better than their starting peg. So that makes it quite difficult for them.
Coach, you mentioned the forwards pack, right? And I've got a bit of an interesting question here. A guy like Salman Murat, right, who's been unlucky with injuries, touted to be obviously the future of Springboks, coming in back into the fold, now is in the team and obviously is playing against a huge team like Ireland. How important is it for him to prove himself in this game?
Yeah, I mean, very, very basic. If I have to ask anyone, why do you think they went for Salman rather than maybe just going for Arche and two loose forwards? What comes to your mind? What do you think Salman offers?
I don't think he should be there.
Okay, but what do you think he offers as a player?
Maybe the only thing that's observable and notifiable by him is line outs, but his carries, he's like the Marvin Ori 2.0. He's going to have 10 carries, 10 meters gained. Salman Marat in high school at Paul Boys was dominating South Africa. At SN at 20 level, he was dominating. He has failed to dominate at professional rugby. I have not seen Salman Marat impose himself in big boy rugby. So I don't know how he's there. Maybe he's really an influential and a strong leader, and he's there maybe on leadership qualities, but I don't know what Salman Marat's doing in the match day 23.
Yeah. Look, what Salman is good at, he's a very physical player, very good tackler. Technical technique sometimes is a bit questionable, but very physical, carries well. He's not a guy that you see making line breaks, but he'll knock guys out, he'll commit 4 guys, and that's exactly the Springbok games. Guys that can inject the slow poison, bring the pain to the other pack, and that's why I started with the point of that award we talk about, the shit that people don't see, the thing that, you know, a normal spectator on the side of the field, because you watch rugby in 2 different eyes. You know, some people judge you based on your ball carries. Why do you think Achieva is not in the Springbok
Interesting question.
squad? Carries the ball well, makes line breaks, but his defense, he's not such a strong defender. And test match is congested. It's not an
have the same
open
space,
game.
yeah.
You know, the space is not really available. But can you try hurt the opponent? Can you try and make that 1 meter? Because that's what matters. You make 1 meter, you commit 4 guys, where's the space on the outside? So those are the small things that these guys consider. How many rugs that Salman hit for the Stormers? Plenty. Very physical around the breakdown area. We need to protect our rug ball to give ourselves a bit of an opportunity. So that's why I wasn't surprised the fact that they had him on the bench.
All right, okay. Once again, I will confidently go with what you are saying because you do have a more objective eye. Now to my next question. What do the Boks need to do today to make sure that they win? Because Ireland's not going to be a walkover. They're not going to fade away after 60 minutes. They're not going to fade away after 70 minutes. I think this game's going to be won in the last 5 minutes of the game. That's how tight I see it. But what can the Boks do correctly today to make sure we get the win?
Yeah, the thing about Test rugby, you know, you have to have a strong set piece. And I think the Springboks could have a bit of an edge there. The other thing is a strong kicking game. You need to be able to get into the opposition 22 without wasting a lot of energy. I really feel we've got a good kicking game, which is backed up by the way we chase. Yeah, I think that gives us a bit of an upper hand there. And you have to have a strong defense. And our defense is quite good. We've been continuing with Jock Ninaba's defense. That what's the new guy that Jerry's running with. So those 3 things are extremely crucial. And I think if I look at Ireland, those 3 things, we have a bit of an upper hand. We'll probably maul them, but what's extremely important around the maul is the deception that you bring. You know, these guys mustn't know if you're going to maul or if you're going to twist, so that the time you decide to maul, they're in 2 minds. Are they going to attack the vacuum? Are they going to give it to the backs? And then you maul them. And the next time they overcommit, they think you're mauling, you let the ball go to the space. So that deception around the line out and the special play is going to be extremely important. And then with the scrums, we're going to have to use that to inject slow poison on that pack's legs, make sure we take away their energy. And our kicking game, like I said earlier, it's extremely brilliant. We need to make sure that we get the contestable kicking game right. You know, when we kick to them, they mustn't run it back. We must tackle them, either contest in the air or you contest the breakdown after the tackle. So we make sure we suffocate and strangle them with our kicking game, and then we dominate the set piece. And I think that's where the game is going to be won. I'm not sure if Ireland's quick hand kind of game is going to get, you know, more than 2 tries for that matter, or 3 tries. They might have a couple of line breaks, but I think our suffocate and strangle sort of defense, which cuts out the third pass, because we defend passes. You see, they always count. There mustn't be more than 2 passes, so our line will shoot out the line, make sure we stop them. But there will be that odd time where the Irish guys do a pull pass and pass it over and make meters. But if we can contain that and make sure they don't do that more than 5 times, we'll be in the mix.
You know what's nice about today is that we're getting an in-depth analysis.
I was about to say the same thing. I'm like,
in-depth analysis.
you know, just hearing the way you analyze the game and you focus on the small things that make or break a test match of this magnitude. It's mind-blowing, Coach. It's like I am grade 1 to grade 12 all in one day. You know, like you're schooling me on rugby, and my word, Coach, I'm really, really appreciative of the intricate insights you're giving us right now. So, you know, like, I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
I'm doing that so you don't argue with me.
Pardon?
I'm doing that so you don't argue with me, so you don't disagree.
Wait, we can
I'm
argue till
raising
the
the
cows go
standards.
home about
I'm
SA under
raising the
20.
standards. Yeah? Now that we passed selection, it's getting easier for me, right?
So one thing you'll always get from me is, if I agree, I agree. If I don't agree, you don't agree. But, you know, right now you're schooling me, and I'm loving it, Black, because really, what you've just pointed out, I can actually see it happening, that we're going to cut off that there's no more than 3 passes. They're going to try to do the wraparound, but we're going to do that whole caving in of our defense, and they're going to get it right twice in the whole game. But we've got also that whole thing of the cover for those 2 breaks. So, you know, like, I can actually see it happening, and like, I think you spot on the money. I think you 100% spot on the money.
Okay, so we have a game here, right? And I want to get your view on it as well. What do you think the score will be?
Yeah, I actually don't enjoy making, you know,
Score predictions?
Yeah, score predictions. Yeah, it's probably gonna be 5 points in it. You know, either that or it's gonna open up badly. You know, considering we're playing at altitude, as much as you've seen Leinster come with more energy in the first half in the second half against the Bulls, the Springboks are just a different beast. You know, they make you work. You know, they take away your feet, they take away your legs in the first half. So if you don't come up with a bench that's ready to handle that level of intensity, it can easily go badly, you know. But so it's either going to be very tight, or if that Irish bench can't handle the intensity, last 15, 20 minutes, then you're just going to see it open up a little bit more. All I'm saying, they just have to handle the scrum, handle the maul, and handle our kicking game. If they can do that, they'll have a bit of a chance. Well, they'll have a chance. It's still a test match. So to answer your question finally, it's going to be quite tight, 5 points in it. And if Rassie uses, or the players, the Springbok uses the altitude really well, and the slow poison kicks in early in the second half, it might open up.
Coach, we watched the Bulls play against Glasgow in the URC final. We watched everyone thinking that Glasgow is going to get blown away in the second half because of altitude. Bulls had a healthy lead, I think, of 13 points or something. But Glasgow came back and beat the Bulls. And that's one team that mitigated the altitude factor. So we've seen, for me, my second best game I've ever seen the Springboks play was when we lost to New Zealand at Loftus. I think we were like, I'd say 20 points ahead. And Rassi made a lot of changes after like 60 minutes. And New Zealand scored 3 tries in 15 minutes. And the Springboks lost that game. New Zealand didn't win that game. Springboks lost that game, you know. So we've seen New Zealand do it at altitude at Ellis Park. We've seen them kick on in the 60th minute going forward. So I'm not really. I think it's not. It's like a false fallacy to think that altitude is going to be in your factor nowadays, because at such a professional level, you guys go to Loftus and win, and you guys train at sea level. You know, Stormers have gone there and won. So I don't think altitude is still a factor for, if you had to ask me. I think maybe at a high school level or at a varsity cup level, where it's not so professional and it's not so technical in terms of what players do to acclimatize to altitude. I mean, like everyone knows altitude is an issue, so of course they're going to plan for it. But I just don't like the fact that we keep on banking on altitude as South Africans.
Yeah, we're not necessarily banking on altitude. If you know how to use the altitude, you can use it to your advantage. And I think the team that we have in the Springboks, that is based on injecting slow poison, that makes you scrum and stop mauls and chase kick the whole first half, altitude will eventually play a role. Whereas the Bulls have a different game plan, their levels of fitness are totally different. If I'm to give you a good example of a Bulls team that could use altitude well,
Saracens game.
No. Think about consistently now. Think about Bucky's Border, Victor Medfield's era. Those guys were not scared to catch a kickoff and maul you. They were not scared to do a 4-man lineup with a 6 outside on their 5-meter line and maul you 5 minutes into the game, because they knew that slowly takes away your weight. So it's also understanding how to utilize that altitude. And the thing with altitude is you gotta save energy. You know, I don't want to give away a lot, but if you watch a lot of teams that do well at altitude, whether they come from sea level, they don't waste a lot of energy. Glasgow was just absorbing, get the ball, they kick it back, chase, the Bulls try to score more points, absorb, and then the last 20 minutes, then it's on their side. You know, they've saved enough energy to still go for it. So the mindset there, you need to be able to know how to use it, you know, and be disciplined around it. You know, you can't now all of a sudden every line out because it's in your half, you play off the top, you know. Use it, maul it, you'll take away the energy, and the Springbok game plan is like that.
I have to ask you something. Yes, you're a Stormers coach. Yes, probably your toughest game is the Bulls. But how do you feel about the Bulls losing the URC final to Glasgow? How do you feel?
Look, it would have been nice for the trophy to stay in South Africa, you know. I have to be grown up about it. You know, it's like we're not a team or a group that celebrates other teams' failures and stuff like that. We would have loved to have been there, but we weren't there. So to answer your question, we would have enjoyed the trophy being in South Africa. I'm not sure we would have enjoyed anything else after that.
Coach, we obviously spoke about the box and touched base on the baby box, but we didn't speak much about you. And obviously to have someone of your magnitude at our show is always a blessing. You're a great supporter to Ubumba, and it's something that we appreciate. So I'm just going to ask you about 5-6 quick questions. You just have to think from the top of your head and give us a quick answer. All right, you ready?
Sure.
Your all-time favorite coach in rugby?
Nick Mallet.
What is your favorite position in rugby?
7.
Your favorite meal?
Meal.
Yes, favorite meal.
Pap and stew.
What's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning?
Read. Sounds perfect.
Sounds too perfect.
Don't ask me what I read.
No, that's fine. And then, we asked this question to Scar, but we want to hear from a coach's perspective. Young aspiring athletes who obviously want to make it out there. What words of encouragement can you actually give to them?
To young
aspiring athletes.
Yeah, look, one thing I always, when I do get a chance, you know, to run the team, double gives me an opportunity. I always ask the guys, what's the difference between working hard and competing? You know, and I get different answers. And for me, you know, my advice is not the cliche is probably work hard, you'll get there. For me, you must compete. You know, if you compete, it covers everything. You refuse to win, you refuse to come second, you refuse to give up. So I always tell the guys, like, if you go to the gym and you're working to become a rugby player, compete with someone. Try to be better than someone. If you're gonna run, compete against time, compete against yourself. So that's the thing. Learn to compete. That's probably the advice I'd like to give to younger guys trying to come through.
Do you have any last questions?
I don't have any last questions, but I just want to say, Coach, your time is very precious. We appreciate you taking the time to come and talk rugby with us. We thank you for the lesson and the very precious and invaluable insights you've given us. Look, I do wish you would change your mentality on the under-20s, because I do believe we need to dominate at every level. But anyways, let's leave that alone. Thanks a lot, Rito. I really appreciate you being here and talking rugby with us. We all love rugby. We're all passionate about rugby, and I probably can't thank you enough. And I really, truly wish you all the best for the forthcoming season. I really want you to bring it home. The Cape Town Faithful supports you, and we support you. And thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, guys. This was really nice.
Yeah, just to echo on what you said, thank you again for pulling through. Appreciate it. We do wish you all the best next season. And in closing off, we just want to thank everyone, obviously, for participating. Our sponsor, Avante. If you haven't liked and subscribed the channel, please do.
Thank you. We're out.